Ashley made several signals to ask what the situation was. Sally repeated what she informed Kim and about how they were likely positioned to spot her if she were to use her shadow magic. Getting a grasp of the situation, Ashley indicated that they would approach the building from all four sides and to watch out for other opponents. Sally moved towards the building, keeping an eye out to prevent being seen. One of the nearby buildings casted a shadow onto her target, so she moved towards the shadow. Instead of diving into the darkness, she partially submerged her hands and feet. This provided her with the ability to climb the side of the building and also stay aware of her surroundings. Heading towards the window that was close to where the three were at, she pulled out a small mirror so she didn't have to expose herself. Though she couldn't see clearly what was inside, she saw enough to spot where they were looking. On the desk, papers were laying on top. With the three too focused on watching out for her team, they didn't seem to watch out for the primary objective. All that needed to be accomplished was to get a hold of the documents. Moving to a shadow that was closer to where the documents were placed, she reached into the darkness and could feel her hand sticking out. In her hand were pieces of papers to take the place of the documents she was aiming for. Switching out the information for the paper she was holding, she pulled out the documents. Looking at the paper, Sally reviewed the necessary information. On the page was a string of numbers, which she carefully jotted down on a blank page of paper. Once she was finished, Sally switched the documents for the blank pages. Completing the mission, all she needed to do was to get back to the instructor to win the match. Rushing away from the building, she set into a mana crystal that was linked to her team and said, "Abort! I have retrieved the documents. I'm now heading to the rendezvous location." As she was rushing towards her destination, she could sense her teammates meeting up with her. In addition to the remains of her team slowly catching up, flying down the long street, they all converged with one another and headed towards the entrance together. The moment they crossed the threshold, Instructor May fired off another fireball to indicate that the match was over. Everyone cheered and clapped at their win. Sally was congratulated by everyone, as they waited for the other team to arrive. When they arrived, the instructor indicated for everyone to quiet down. As the club members began to stop talking, the instructor looked at those who weren't in the match and asked, "What went wrong for the defending team?" There was a long pause as everyone tried to think about the match and what had happened. A short girl with green hair raised her hand and said, "The defending team lost sight of the main objective and got distracted." Instructor May nodded her head to let the girl know that she answered correctly. Looking back at them, she asked, "What did the infiltrating team do correctly?" The same girl raised her hand and said, "Once upperclassmate Sally realized that she was able to copy the documents, even though her team was getting ready to move, she took the initiative to go for completing the main objective." "Yes," Instructor May said, agreeing. "Remember, you will often be placed into a situation where you have to make a decision, whether you stick to a plan or adjust when the situation calls for it. In this match, the objective was the document, not to take out the opposing members. Even though eliminating enemies sounds more impressive and helps to display your skills, you need to keep your objective in mind." After being dismissed, everyone headed towards the building next to the training grounds. All that waited for them was a nice hot shower before they headed to class. Sally chatted with her fellow club members, some who offered advice based on what they saw, and others who wanted to hear how she was able to think about grabbing the documents and winning the match. Inside of the building was split into 3 hallways. One of the hallways led to the weight room, another to the relaxation area, and the final to the showers. Sally walked with Kate, Kim, and Ashley as they discussed where they did well and areas they could improve. If it wasn't for you, Sally, I don't know if we could have completed the objective. Looking at the screen from the opposing team's perspective, they did a good job of having all the angles covered. If there were an additional member, they would probably have spotted you taking the documents, Ashley said, pondering about how they could have proceeded in such a hypothetical situation. I know that I wouldn't have been able to complete the mission, Kate said, sounding depressed. I don't have a surefire way to finish them off in that kind of environment. Don't worry, Kate. We'll work with you to get you ready, Sally assured her. Even though Sally and Kate were sometimes competitive, they both respected one another, and seeing the other succeed was always a win-win scenario. Entering into the locker area, Sally hung up her school uniform and undressed out of her training clothes. With her sweating, the clothes had a noticeable odor to them. Quickly storing her dirty clothes into the storage ring, she walked towards the shower area, making sure to grab some towels off of a cart. There was already steam drifting out of the area as her classmates washed off the grime with hot water. Going into one of the stalls, Sally hung up the towel and turned on the water. Holding onto the top of the walls of the stall, she just let the hot water flow off of her body. She felt the water form a stream as it ran down between her breasts and continued down her front. Just standing in the hot water made her remember all those times she had to wash in cold and dirty gutter water. Afraid of people seeing her wash, she would often leave her shirt on and rub herself with some stolen soap. She would spend the day soaked and shivering. If there was one thing she started to understand, was that being clean helped her to attract assistance from guys, because many of the girls just stayed dirty. Her physical appearance was what caused them to want to help her, though they were also hoping for something extra. Sally would often be scared about one of the guys forcing themselves on her and not being able to fight back. Her hands gripped the walls of the stalls until her hand began to tremble with the strain. She hated how afraid she was on the streets and never wanted to put herself in that situation again. After calming down, she grabbed some soap and began washing herself. Draping her hair to one side, she began to apply shampoo to it and then flipped her hair to get the rest. Standing up, she turned her back to the faucet and enjoyed the feeling of the water as it flowed through her hair and down her back. She closed her eyes in bliss. Turning off the water, Sally went to the towels and wrapped one of them around her while the other was used to wrap her hair. Leaving the stall, she went over to the giant mirror where different makeups and creams were placed for the girls to use. Grabbing a bottle of cream to moisturize her face, she leaned towards the mirror to make sure that it was rubbed into her face. Removing the towel from her hair and letting it fall, slightly damp, Sally looked at herself in the mirror. Compared to when she first arrived, Sally had started eating better, and her body was starting to fill out. The towel stuck to her body, showing that she had more curves now than when she was living on the streets. Seeing how her physical appearance was vastly better than before, she smiled, while thinking how all of this was thanks to the master of the city. He had created this paradise, where she didn't have to worry about eating and having a place to belong. From her storage ring, she took out the letter she received on her first day in the city. Her fingers ran across the words on the page, as she remembered finding out that this letter wasn't something everyone received. Sally remembered going back to her apartment after learning that no one else had been given a letter when they moved in, and how happy it made her. Looking into the mirror, She saw her figure that was holding the letter, and she understood only one thing. For the 100th time, Sally swore that she would do whatever it took to repay everything the master had done for her, regardless of the consequences.